Yes.
We're live. Sam, take it away.
Righty-ho. So this is a security working group meeting for July 17th. Sorry, June 17th, 2019. And we're live. So should we just start going through the agenda?
Yes, sure.
Yes, sure.
Okay. So the first item is some docs on the bug bounty program. Who added that to the agenda? Let's see. Was it anybody here?
I think it's on Liran, but he's between flights right now, so I'm not sure he can be there.
Yes, the only thing I looked there is there's one comment that I made about vulnerability type. Consider instead to have a criteria based on vulnerability severity rather than type, so as to match anything greater than or equal to 4. I just suggested maybe to leave that out of the document, open another issue to capture the discussion, and get this one landed.
Well, in the absence of Liran being here, I don't know if we can move this forward like in this meeting. I think it just needs to, he can just respond in GitHub, or else bring it up at the next meeting and land this, and we can start off the bounty program.
Yeah, if nobody else has any comments, then sure.
Liran is an attendee asking for being promoted to panelist.
There, okay, I just promoted him.
Hey, thank you. What's up?
We were just getting started.
That's great. We can hear you.
We were just getting started.
Yeah.
Right, great. Sorry for being late.
Right, great. Sorry for being late.
That's okay. We're just talking about the bug bounty program. It looks like it's on the working group agenda. Is there anything we need to talk about now? Any questions you have before landing it? It looked like Michael had a couple comments.
I think we're overall good. What we're waiting for, I think, is was that just the module list? We need approval from the actual module list people, to maintainers, to actually get that added.
So sorry, you were waiting.
Does that need to be in this
Sorry,
first?
you're waiting for.
Oh, does the module list have to be in the first PR, or can the process be landed and then we can add the module list later?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can land the PR without it. Just saying that, generally speaking, for the actual giving someone a bounty, we say that we need like maintainers to approve that they want to participate in that.
Yep.
So we can land the PR, but it will render the bug bounty itself useless. So we need that.
Do you have confirmation from any of those modules?
I'm not sure that we actually did reach out to anyone.
So yeah, it's probably good to have at least one, like you said.
Yeah, maybe we need to take that as an action item, like just reach out to some people and get just like trying to see if we can get people to approve.
And Lodash might be a good one because I think the maintainer, that's Jordan, is it? Or am I remembering wrong?
I don't know if it's that one, but I think Mateo's list of modules is good ones. Probably those from Zate as well. Yeah, I mean, I can think of some other off the top of my head, but I would say just taking an action item to reach out to this package maintainers.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I also had a chat with the Bootstrap team, and they are somehow interested too.
Right, Jordan's actually pretty, you know, for Lodash, he's pretty. Sorry, not Jordan. John Dalton is quite active in the modules work, so active in the overall project. So he might be a good one to reach out to and as a starting point.
Yeah, that sounds like a good
Michael,
advice.
can you promote Chalker?
Yep.
Nikita?
Here, I'll make you the owner again. There, I promote him as well, but I will also make you the host.
Okay, Liran, are you interested in doing that reaching out, like doing that action item? Is that for
Yep.
the?
Yeah.
Of course, if anyone else wants to just join in on that and help reaching out, that's also good. So, but I'll take that regardless.
Yeah, if you want me to reach out to John David Dalton, I could do that just because.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, even just
Okay.
like I guess what we can do is I'm thinking what would be a good way. I would say open an issue, but that could get very noisy.
I was just going to send him an email and say, hey.
Yeah, that's another way.
This is what's going on. Are you interested in being, interested in being listed?
Sure. Yeah. Okay, cool. If you did a justice to me, I'll be able to pick it up if he's up.
Sounds good.
Okay, so are we good for that first item, the bug bounty program?
Yeah, good with me, Sam.
Okay, next, am I echoing terribly still, or is it better?
It seems better. It seems like for some reason I'm
Okay.
echoing.
I don't hear you echoing, for whatever it's worth. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is what upper vulnerable version should be set in reports. So, I mean, where are we at with that? Is it still debate on it, or?
Yeah, let me open that.
Looks like Doug Wilson might be objecting reasonably, I guess, for all upper bounds. I think I'm agreeing with you, Liran, that star makes the only sense. I mean, if we don't know there's no fix, how can we set it upper bound on the report?
Yeah, and my reasoning is that if we don't, then our like what happens is that those reports become stale and that don't really mean anything because new versions will get published and they could just have the vulnerability, but we will have an upper bound that is below that one. So.
Right. Now, in a lot of cases, though, we'll have worked with the maintainer, right? And they should actually be releasing a fix at the same time as the report is going out, right?
Yeah, but imagine a scenario where you report a vulnerability in a version, and then for some other reason, they make a release and bump the version number. It might be the case now that your vulnerability no longer applies to that particular version that was released, even though it doesn't actually have any sort of security fix included.
Right, but I guess what I'm thinking is if there is a security fix going out, we'll know that the versions after that are fixed, right? So.
And at that point, we go and update the report, right? So the initial report would have star until we're made aware that there's a fix and we can verify it. And then at that point,
But I'm hoping that most times there's no report at all until there is a fix, right?
Right. Yeah. So right. So most of the times, or the ideal way to triage that is that during triage, we actually pull in the maintainer and they coordinate the fix with us, and then there's no problem. This is only a problem with the upper version in those not so idle cases. Ideal because in those cases, basically the maintainer didn't respond to anything, and we have to just push it out. And at that time, it's just going to be like an asterisk or something saying that it's everything until it hits them in some way, if at all. And then it's going to go back to us to kind of update it with a fix if there is one, or opened for dispute or something like that. So this is how I see that would be rolling out.
Yeah, I think in the case where it's going out anyway, then the star makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that's my point.
But I forget the context of the rest of the, I'd have to go back and look at the issue. As long as the issue says this is like the rare case because normally
right.
not going to happen, then I don't know that, I agree. That's the right answer, like everybody else was saying.
I think we might want to make an update to our marketing of the program on HackerOne. If the general consensus is that we don't expect to make releases of vulnerabilities often where the maintainer hasn't been involved, because the way that it says what's happening in a bug bounty program, it basically says like if you report a vulnerability to us in 45 days, regardless of what happens, we're going to make it live. And I think that hackers see that, and that's one of the reasons they do report to us, is because they have an expectation that if there is an activity from the maintainer, it will go public. And I don't think historically we've necessarily done that. I think we've gone the other way and tried not to make releases to not cause waves, which both makes sense. I just think we should align what we're saying here with what we advertise.
Right. Now, do we have ones where there's been like no response whatsoever from the maintainer for 45?
Very often. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Often.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a very valid case. Ron is saying it's probably not connected to this case specifically, but that is, we are definitely not on the 45 days time.
Right. Okay.
In those cases, star would make sense, right, Liren, if I'm following?
Yeah, I would say it's like generally, unless like we get ideally the report should have the maintainer and then a fix. That would be like most of the reports, hopefully. But when cases that we can't reach them out, or they're not responding, whatever, we have to basically do it without them. Then we have to put a star. That's kind of what I'm saying, because otherwise the only version that we know is that of the current date. And if they just didn't respond to us but continue releasing security releases, then that security vulnerability is going to be there without us catching it in terms of the upper bound.
I don't think we should change the docs in the 45 days. I mean, we don't necessarily have to do it at 45 days, but at least it makes it clear that we're not going to leave. Like, people can't just refuse to talk to us and expect that it will forever sit in HackerOne and not be released.
I mean, I would say let's pick it up. Anyway, entirely related to this point. And most of the problem of us not getting a report out in 45 days, it's not because of the maintainer. It's sometimes just us being a bit late on triaging them.
Yeah, I agree. So it sounds like the consensus here is that we try not to release until the maintainers had a chance to update a fix. But if there is no fix available, we have to release the vulnerability, and we have to release it with a star. There's not really any other choice.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, great. I think we can, I'll update the comment there and just update the onboarding process with that. Sorry, not the onboarding, the triage process.
I'm just typing in some notes, and then let's see.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, we have to release. Okay, the next thing on the list is HackerOne's managed services, issue 516. I'm not sure why, maybe this shouldn't be on the, why is it still on the agenda? I'm looking now.
I think it doesn't need to be on the agenda anymore because we moved forward on the two organizations, so Node Core and Ecosystem have moved to a managed bug bounty.
Any feedback on how that's been going so far?
It seems that there's a new category where things are being placed after initial triage. So the idea is that they save us some work of verifying vulnerabilities, but then they end up in a new queue, which we then need to pick up. So I think there's been some chat about we have 20 of them and we're going to start working through them, but they've sort of been pooling in a new location.
Okay, so if that's the case, hopefully better people all aware. It sounds like you are. I wonder, like for the core vulnerabilities, is it the same thing where they'll be somewhere different and we need to make sure that the triagers know that?
I don't think so. It's pretty evident in the user interface. But when we were doing triage before we had HackerOne's help, they would pool in the initial triage phase, which would affect our numbers that were visible on the public webpage about our responsiveness. But now they don't. Instead, they move into a new category and give us a longer chance to deal with them. But it's very obvious in the user interface. There's a new inbox.
Okay. Well, that's good.
How are we doing with triage? I mean, I say we, I haven't been looking at it at all. Is there anybody here from like looking at the stuff on HackerOne, triaging and moving it forward? Like, is that working okay? Or is there not enough people working on it?
Yeah, we're still lagging behind. Like 22 reports. I took a look yesterday, started working on one that, on one of those. I think Martin also chimed in on one as well. And we need to basically go through them. So, yep. It's not quite there. That's what
should we be
trying.
Should we be trying to get more people involved, or? I mean, it sounds like it's just Lyra and it's just you and Ron maybe working on this right now.
Yeah, Ron has been doing, I think, a lot in the past couple of months. He took a lot of the load. I'll get back to it. Started yesterday. I'll get back to it this week later on as well. I don't know about more people, just because we sometimes just add more people, but not like there's not the same throughput.
I can definitely pick up some more. I had an initial batch that were in my pipe, but I've got some room, so I'll pick some things up this week. We can get caught up.
Yeah, I think with the current size that we have, it's not that bad. We're a bit behind, but I'm just wondering, maybe we should add more like specific key people that have done this before and have some more motivation to do that, because it's also very easy to just start it out, but then you know, just shy away from that because of work and other stuff. So I've got something in mind. Let me see if I can put that into an issue and share it.
It's a lot of work, but maybe it's worth, well, maybe it's not a lot of work, but it's a little bit of work. Maybe it's worth adding to like the regular agenda, just what our current stats are, so we can kind of track whether or not we're keeping up or not.
I'd be willing to own that.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. I think that's a good idea, Sam.
Okay, is there any more to talk about with this one?
I don't think so. I removed it from the agenda.
Okay. So should we move on to 511?
Sure. So 5.11 is another one, but we were waiting for the next updates from the OpenJS Foundation, the CPC being established. I don't really know what the state of the OpenJS Foundation is right now, but the idea behind this issue is, can we expand the scope of the security working group to other projects of the foundation?
Yeah, so the OpenJS Foundation is further along in terms of ramping up. The voting representatives have been elected, and I think that's about where it is. There's been some work to start spin up other things in terms of, like, there's a standards repo been opened up. And if we think that things should be happening at that level with respect to security, it's probably a good time to open an issue to start that discussion now. Maybe with some suggestions on what that might be.
So an issue in our repo or somewhere else?
I would say there's the OpenJS Foundation repo.
Okay.
So here, let me just find that for you. OpenJS Foundation. And probably in CPC cross. So this one.
Could you put the link in the working group meeting doc?
Sure, I should be able to do that.
Okay.
I mean, we might spend a few minutes, like, what are your current thoughts on what that might look like? Like, is it that the coordinating security best practices across the different projects? I mean, you could see that the ecosystem triage might fit there.
I agree. Also, maybe having a framework for security processes and having an agreement from maintainers from all projects to work with us when something is found in their packages. Guidelines regarding what are the security processes for all these repos could be a good sign of stability to the outside world.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think that's a good discussion to have. The mandate of the CPC is not to tell the projects how to do anything, but I think as an opt-in kind of, hey, here's some best practices, and I suspect many of them would be interested. It would make sense.
Yeah, definitely not something top-down, but at least invite them to share best practice and to maybe help them remove a bit of the burden of security from their shoulders.
Yeah, so hopefully an issue there will now get at least a couple representatives from the impact projects, as well as some representatives from the smaller projects as well.
It seems reasonable. So is there more stuff to talk about here, or should we move it back to GitHub? I didn't hear that, Vladimir. Are we good? Should we move to the next agenda item?
Yeah, we can move forward. Can you hear me?
So the next agenda item was the upcoming Collaborator Summit in May, except it's no longer upcoming. It happened. I don't think there's anything to say about that anymore. I probably should have taken it off the agenda if I put it there.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Okay, so unless anybody has anything else to say, I'm just removing it from the agenda.
Perhaps just close it if no one objects.
Sorry, Vladimir. I mean, sorry, Nikita.
I said perhaps just close the issue if no one objects.
Sounds good to me. Thank you. Okay, so then the last issue here, it's called large-scale disclosure guidelines, though I think it specifically relates to possibly insecure buffer constructor usage. So what is the state of this? I think, Liran, if I recall, you were interacting with some researchers who had a bulk, basically had found a bunch of problems.
Yeah, I don't think we had too much interaction there. Basically, someone just sharing that, and I was chiming in with some questions around what he did, but trying to figure out yet what do we want to do with that one.
I met with Drew from R2C, who's mentioned in this issue, in person at the conference, and he said that they have like 20,000 vulnerabilities in the node module ecosystem, but nowhere to put them. And I don't know what the quality of them is, but I exchanged a few emails with him. Does somebody want me to follow up?
So yeah, that's actually the main topic of that issue, is that when people, so there are a couple of people who have thousands of things they consider vulnerabilities. They got mostly through static analysis. And the thing is the workforce, the manual workforce to make sure they are valid is insane. And it's as disastrous to miss a vulnerability, publish vulnerability as a vulnerability. I'm not sure if that's clear, but I'm afraid regarding false positive with all these static methods of finding vulnerable piece of code.
Right. If they're strictly saying, hey, they still use the old constructor, we know that that's not necessarily a vulnerability.
Right.
I guess asking if, have we asked if they've done that filtering?
I think they're a commercial company, so I think that somebody would have to take some of their data and do some kind of analysis.
I have a somewhat related private topic to discuss. Do we have time for that until the end of this hour or not? Like, I think we need about 5 minutes.
All right, let's.
You want to talk about it?
All right, let's keep this.
Did you want to talk about it in the public part of the meeting or the private part, Nikita?
In the private part.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So as far as bulk vulnerability, like just literally bulk vulnerability disclosure goes, it looks to me like the people stopped responding in the GitHub issue. They're just, Liran asked some questions, I asked some questions, there's not really any response. And I guess we all are reluctant to add 20,000 vulnerabilities on packages that haven't been actually verified to be vulnerabilities, right? Like, I don't think we would do that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sorry, I just want to say it's more than just adding them, even if they were validated. It's more about also inviting the maintainer of each and coordinating the releases of fixes, etc. Which I'm really eager to see what Nikita want to share on that, but it's probably not something that we can do at the scale of the working group for now.
Right. So I'm not sure what more we can say about. So I think that kind of covers what we think about bulk vulnerabilities. with respect to specifically to the buffer vulnerabilities, I opened an issue and a PR also in Node to remove the vulnerable constructor. I didn't really expect it to get anywhere, and it didn't, and there hasn't been a lot of comment. I'd like us to have a policy, like I'd like us to have a plan. I'd either like to not have to hear more about this, or else for us to decide that we want to do something in Node and start increasing the pressure on the ecosystem to remove use of the buffer constructor. But that's kind of sensitive as well. So I'm kind of wondering what other people here think we should be doing about this vulnerable buffer constructor. I mean, especially people who are working in security like you, Liran and Vladimir, and obviously you as well, Nikita. Like, where should we go from here?
Okay, I think that I could move my question to the public part on a second thought. So I wanted to ask everyone to confirm that my buffer ecosystem usage repo could be opened up right now. It doesn't have any vulnerabilities that are confirmed, but it has a list of buffer constructor usage that could be related to vulnerabilities, and that list could help people to migrate of the buffer constructor and to potentially find packages that could be vulnerable. That is sorted by downloads per month and has an analysis from 2016 to this year. And apart from that, there is a list of NPM authors with their total downloads per month, with the total downloads per month that they control. I don't think that that is sensitive data, because everything in that repository was obtained from NPM public IP, basically. So I will post the link in the chat right now that repo is now technically owned by the security working group, I think. Give me a second.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry.
I was going to say, just because data came from public, if it's been mined to the point where now it's much more useful, say for an attack or something, I'm not sure it's always straightforward to say, well, it came from public sources, so it's fine to just publish it publicly. But
I don't think it has been lying there for some time, and I think that I went through the top models and took a look at them. Well, that was some time ago. Perhaps something changed, but I don't think that much things changed. But I think that opening that up will, at this point, do more good than harm. So, just to people could take quick analysis. So the proposal would be.
I'm personally. Sorry. I personally am in favor of opening it up. It's if like true, like bad actors, like black hat hackers or whatever we want to call them, people who are interested in compromising NPM packages, they know that buffer constructors have issues around vulnerability, and they know how to scrape NPM to find vulnerable buffer constructors, like these people who just found 20,000 possibly vulnerable things. Like they didn't need our help to find that things. So I think that people who want to compromise NPM packages have enough information to be doing it. And it doesn't really, it's just meaningless obfuscation for us to pretend that the information we have is going to make even more bad people find problems. So I think we should start. Yeah, I'm in favor of opening opening up the information and getting people working on it.
Yes, just for example, using the public data from then it will be possible to reproduce this in like 10 to 20 minutes. So I don't think that there is like much private data there or much private work. And I think that everyone who are bad actors actually, I think that they probably have the same data already. And this will just open it up to everybody to take a closer look at those packages.
Michael, do you strongly do you disagree, or
no,
are you
I'm
just
not.
a little
No,
worried about it?
what I was saying is just because it was public doesn't mean that it should be, with a reasonable argument, and I think that's what you two are making. It can be okay. Loren and Vladimir, what are your thoughts on this front?
I actually think the thing has been well known for so long that it would not raise any main issue for me to go public now.
Yeah, I joined that. I think we can do something that is also more helpful. Like before, maybe we go and publish that in a very open forwarding manner. We can maybe send out communication. So either post a blog post about it, or Twitter, or emails, or whatever we have to reach users. Just draw their attention on this. See if we can just make people more aware of that, and ask them to make the relevant changes if they need to in their code bases, or upgrade to more secure versions of Node for that, and then publish it. So this will be at least useful and helpful for some of for the readers and community in general.
But is there something people? Oops. Is there something people can actually do? Like in terms of upgrading to later versions or whatever? I think the sense I get is that the buffer usage is not necessarily decreasing, right?
Oh, it's not, but like so as far as I know, there's like you can use a specific like since version 8 or something, we patched that. So even if you use the buffer constructor, like the bad one, the bad usage for that with the new keyword, you don't get the uninitialized memory. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's definitely there. So basically, there are some workarounds that we have. I think they're also documented on the website, and I think we just need to get people like aware of that. So I would say, like, I'm just trying to say, if it's some external company, doing whatever research and as a 0-day just gonna go and release that, that's one thing. But if we want to do it, like if it's coming from Nikita or something like that, I think it would make sense if we maybe try to just communicate it. In an announcement, like just maybe not an announcement, official announcement of something gonna get discovered, or maybe yes, I don't know, but more like just trying to make people aware that they should follow that, and then release it, so it's not coming as a complete surprise to anyone, even though that's anyway the issue, like been there for like a couple of years.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea, along with the like, here's what end users should do if you're already moved up to 8. You're okay, right? It's just that we'd like to deprecate the old. We'd like to deprecate the old ones, but can't. So this is one thing that's going out to help push in that direction.
Right.
6 is not supposed anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, I guess the answer, because part of that should include why it's still an issue, right? Like if 8 has basically closed the security hole, explaining still why it matters would be good to have in that blog post, right? Like
8 does not close this security hole.
Okay.
Yeah. 8 from 8 onwards, there are APIs that people should use as an alternative. But if they don't move to the alternative, it doesn't. No, is that not correct, Peter?
Those APIs are from 4.5, I think. Those are APIs that people could use to not have a security issue. Are there from version 4.5? And later version of Node changed the memory allocation in the new buffer. So that is zero field. So that closes the memory exposure vulnerability. But it does not close the denial of service vulnerability. Nothing could close the denial of service vulnerability except for migration to the new IP that is secure, or introducing user input checks everywhere, but basically just migration to the new IP is better. So there is a larger security problem with memory exposure, and there is another security problem with denial of service. The denial of service was not fixed in 8. It is not possible to fix that without changing the ecosystem models.
Gotcha. Okay, sounds like a good topic to discuss in the team on the Slack, since we're also out of time soon.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, because I think a blog that explains the context, and probably we want to get the TSC to just have a review of that, that and the fact that the data is going to go out would be good as part of the process.
Okay, so I agree. I think we should do a blog post that describes the current state and what we want people to do, and basically tells them that this information will become public soon. Do we have a volunteer to write that? I mean, I could take a shot at it, but I would clearly need somebody who's more informed, like Nikita, to review it. Or maybe, Nikita, you've been doing a lot of the work. Do you want to write the blog post?
Probably not. I still have something in the buffer.
Tom, maybe we can have like an interesting blog post where it's more of an interview, and like we can just have a Q&A, like why is it important, what are the vulnerabilities, and then we can just quote Nikita on some of the stuff. What do you think?
I think that I can help with that, but I probably won't be able to publish the whole blog post, like to write it from scratch in the observable time.
Sure, I think we can help you do that between all of us, so it shouldn't be an issue. So Sam, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I agree.
Sam, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll kick it off on and we can interact there and maybe via email or Slack. But yeah, I can make sure we start moving on this.
I can write about node modules that were affected by the buffer constructor thing, and that could be an example of why it is also dangerous.
Okay, so I think we're good for this issue then for now. I'm sure it'll come up again. Are we, we're out of time. I guess should we call the meeting now then, and we can continue next time? Yes, or did I lose everybody?
I think everyone just agrees.
Okay, Michael, is there a customary sign off on these things, or do we have to check like YouTube for open questions or something?
So I usually ask during the YouTube broadcast if anyone has question, and no one has any so far.
Okay, well then I think we're good for today. It was a productive meeting, and I guess we meet again in a month.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks, Sam.
Okay, well, thank you all for showing up, and see you online.
See you.